when Grant becomes president, he expands the scope of the Coast Survey to the Coast and Geodetic Survey, and in 1871 began the Transcontinental Arc of Triangulation. The thing I want to point out with this is, because of the Corps of Topographical Engineers being absorbed back into the Corps of Engineers, the scientific group of people, these people were, in fact, if you get a chance, there's a recent book out on Poe's life. If you get a chance, read it. He was a bit of an arrogant ass. But the thing of it is, what it really gives you is a very good insight of the relationship of being a topographical engineer in the military. You had tremendous amount of latitude, tremendous amount of freedom, and you were generally not involved in garrison duty. However, that was all gone, and now all of a sudden, with the Coast Survey and becoming the Coast and Geodetic Survey, and of course with the triangulation, we now began the remapping and the accurate determination of points in the United States. So unfortunately, the Corps of Topographical Engineers, well, from a fortune standpoint, they were there, they did it. They were good enough when you were drawing ox carts at 4 miles an hour, but now we're trying to push trains across the nation at tens of miles per hour. That pretty much concludes it. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to ask them, or I will defer to all of my experts, or dodge them like a typical Yankee.
Yes. Have you studied some about the mapping of the Mexican War? I know Lee was down there as an engineer.
Actually, Lee was he was under Old Fuss and Feathers, and he was an engineer, and because of it was primarily because of Lee, the Army was able to move and outmaneuver and outfight the Mexicans. I have not read an awful lot about it.
There's a good book out now. You can get it on an audio book. That is all about the battles in the Mexican War and the final battles into the Mexican War. Yeah. The one by Shara. It's Gone for Soldiers. Yeah, that was the. I'm sorry. It talks about.
If you'll pardon the expression, that sucks big time.
Well,
there's very little research done insofar as what they actually had in the way of equipment. He refers to binoculars and such. You know, they weren't using binoculars.
That's why I was asking if there's been any research into what the engineers were doing in the Army, because it's mentioned in there. Okay.
The man right back there in the fancy uniform, he does pre-war, primarily expansion era. And there's one thing that I want to put a good plug in for his Topog camp. If you, for a couple $100, and if you can get to La Junta in June, they haven't established the date. Honest to God, it is all that neat stuff you saw, all that latest scientific equipment. You actually get to use that stuff, and it's really a tremendous insight. Evan's been there, I've been there. Anyone else has been to that one?
Well worth the money.
Hey, and I mean, the thing of it is, all you got to do is get there. They provide the food. I mean, it's the first time of my life I ever had buffalo liver and onions for breakfast. Actually, it wasn't that bad, because after a while you get pretty hungry, too. Yeah, Evan.
The shot that killed Lieutenant Wagner, I've heard two different distances, 1,000 yards and 3,000. What's your take on that?
I don't have the actual distance on that one. All I know is in my paper I cited three: Sneeden, Dorandon, and of course Longstreet. And Longstreet even considered him arrogant. I mean, you walk out there in full dress uniform and engage somebody, I mean, they're literally chaining at the double quick, and all of a sudden, kaboom, and they not only they killed him, but they also, I think, killed off a couple of the survey party and destroyed the plane table. I mean, plane tables are hard to come by. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was kind of brought out in Don Erickson's thing, because the Corps of Engineers, they kind of really constricted themselves back to fortifications and stuff like that, and the topogs pretty much did everything else. Actually, George Meade, when he graduated, was not a topog. He was in artillery. So he stayed a lieutenant for a very long time. And that's the big point, is the topographical engineers were really the engineers that did a tremendous amount of work in the development of this country, because it was a peacetime army, and really there wasn't a great need to develop the army. We were still considered ourselves, why did we fight the Revolutionary War? Because we were against a nation that had a large standing army. We didn't, in fact, actually the general idea back then was there was quite a bit of bias against the standing army and against the engineers, who were the elite of the army, because they were considered a bunch of egoists. And so as a result of that, a lot of the development was done by the Corps topographical engineers, and they wound up on designing lighthouses. Did you want to tail on?
They came up with the screw pile lighthouse. I mean, that's got to count for something.
In general, the presenters this morning, how long will you keep your displays out that we can come in and look at it this afternoon, perhaps?
Oh yeah, I'll leave everything here. I forgot to bring my card down. I'll bring my card down. We're not able to get the PowerPoint presentation in the handout, but if you want a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, I'll bring my cards down. I'll put them over here somewhere, and if you email me, I think I can zip them up, or I've really just converted them to Adobe PDFs, and I can ship them to you if you're interested. Actually, the one that I finally gave Bart, it's the paper and the PowerPoints are a work in progress, okay? I keep changing this and changing that, or finding a new, some sort of a new citation or something like that. One last thing, if you ever get an opportunity, this was like in June, we had an opportunity to go to D.C., Library of Congress. If you ever go to Library of Congress, or you ever go to D.C., obviously you want to see all this, but do Library of Congress and do their mapping section. It is worth it. I actually stood there with Jed Hotchkiss's field books in my hand. I mean, these people just bend over backwards. Sherman's, they had lithographed the maps, and it had his notations on there on the March to the Sea, and these maps are literally, I'm holding them in my hands. I mean, from a surveyor's and mapper standpoint, and also from a historian, obviously it was one of the high points. Ranks almost up there to getting married, having kids, getting a mortgage, trading the Corvette for the van. What's that?
Your wife's not here, is she?
Well, I had to put away. I've got plenty of spies.